Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey, right here on the Dice Tower. Today we're taking a look at this one that I am late to the party with, Star Wars, The Clone Wars. This is a game that is built within the pandemic system based on Matt Leacock's design. Let's get down to the table and take a look, shall we? So here I have a two-player game of Star Wars The Clone Wars set up for you. Each person is going to be able to choose their own Jedi out of 7 different Jedis. So I have Obi-Wan and Anakin over here. Then you also have Aayla Secura, Luminara Unduli, Mace Windu, Yoda, and then Ahsoka Tano. And then each player is going to be dealt their own player aid card, but on the back of their player aid card has their starting location. So Anakin starting over here on Kashyyyk, and Obi-Wan starts over here on Christophsis. Now, in addition to that, you're also going to deal in a two-player game. You're going to deal 3 squad cards to each player, and there are no less than 5 different kinds of squad cards that are out there. You have transports, you have assault troopers, you have stealth troopers, and then you also have armor and allies. All of the cards that you have in your hand are dual purpose. So first of all, what you're going to be able to do is each of these different kinds of cards has a special ability at the bottom of them that you'll be able to tap on your turn and do that special ability. So stealth troopers and assault troopers are basically going to be adding successes to your combats. Transports are going to be able to allow you to move further on your turn, so you can double a flight from your planet, but it's a limit to 1 transport use per flight. And then you also have allies. Now, allies are a little bit different than the rest of the squad cards. The rest of the squad cards, in order to use their special ability, you just tap them. They actually stay in your hand. You don't have to discard them. But with allies, you're going to discard during your action step in order to do whatever their special ability of the ally is. Here, Padme says discard during the action step. The current Jedi does 2 extra actions instead of just the regular 4. But ally cards, you have to discard them in order to use them. Armor is the last kind of card, and whenever the Jedi have to take damage, you can tap an armor to negate 1 damage that a Jedi on your planet is going to be taking. So you're dealt these squad cards that you're going to be using. Then you're also going to choose, based on the difficulty level that you want to play, how many mission cards are going to be out there. 2 of them are turned over. Their mission counters are put on their planets that they are showing right here. And missions are basically things that you have to go and do. And once you've completed all of the missions, then you're able to do a final battle against the villain. The only way that you can win this game is by completing all of the missions that are over here, going to the final finale, and defeating the final finale. That's the only way you can win. The way you can lose is if this is here and you have to advance the threat marker to Darth Sidious. Game over, you've lost. So that's how you win or lose the game. Let me give you a base example of a turn, and then we'll move on to my final thoughts. So for our basis turn here, what we're going to do is we're going to have Obi-Wan go first, and Obi-Wan can draw 4 squad cards, then place 3 of them on the bottom of the deck in a random order. So you get to draw 4 and keep 1, and this is a free action. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. We're going to draw 4 cards. That's 3, 4. And we'll be able to look at them. And let's see, what do we need? Well, we probably need some more fighting right now. So we're going to go ahead and take this red assault. And these other 3 are just placed on the bottom of the deck. Now, what he has the ability to do is he has 4 action points. And he can spend those action points doing any one of 4 different actions. The first action is he can fly. When you fly from one planet to another planet, that's 1 action point. So he could fly 1, 2, 3, 4 and get all the way over to Kashyyyk if he wanted to, but then he wouldn't have any turns left. So that's flying. The transports will allow you to double that. He has the ability to move just 1 on a flight. So if he uses a transport card, he would be able to move 2. But there are Jedis in the game that have more than 1 movement point whenever they fly, so they would be able to double that by using a transport. The second thing you can do is you can attack. If you are in a planet, if you're on a planet that has enemy forces on that, you have the ability to choose to combat them. You're going to take the die and you're going to roll it. And it's going to give you either successes here, or it's going to give you successes and damage. If you roll successes and damage, the successes will add to your combat value, and then it will damage the Jedi that is in the battle right now. We rolled 1 success, so that is going to kill one of the droids that's there, but then the purples and reds can both be used to add combat to your strength, but you can only use 1 color. So you can only use your reds or your purples. You can't combine them, except with Anakin over here. He can use his stealth cards as if they were reds if he wanted to or needed to. So right now we only need 1 to get rid of both of those droids. So we're going to tap 1 of my stealth, and that will take out the other one. These 2 would be removed from the board, and that was a successful combat. Another thing that you can do on your turn is you can reinforce. Reinforce is just simply drawing a card and adding it to your hand. So this one adds Gregor, another stealth trooper, to my hand, and that becomes available. And then finally, let's see here. I didn't actually fly yet. So let's say that we're going to go ahead and fly all the way from Christosis over to Rhodia, and then we're going to do another attack to try to get rid of that guy as my last action. So I got 1. I don't even need to use any of my cards. This guy's toast. During the villain phase of Obi-Wan Kenobi's turn, we would first check if Ventress is on a mission planet, advance the threat. She is not on a mission planet because these are the 2 mission planets here, so we don't have to advance the threat. So now that we've taken care of that, we take it off of the deck and we turn the first card over. Assassin. If Ventress is on the board, roll the die, move Ventress 1 planet per success toward the closest mission. So we're going to roll this, and there are 2. So the closest mission planet is probably 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So Ventress is going to move over here because she got 2 successes. Now, each Jedi on her planet or connected planet suffers 1 damage. So Anakin is right here. He suffers 1 damage. He is going to basically tap his armor so that he can deflect that 1 damage that he has to do. But now that I have done the villain phase, then we go to the invasion. So we have to flip over. The invasion counter is at 2, so we have to flip over 2 planets, and we add 1 to each of those planets like that. And then we flip over another one, Onderon, so that will go here as well. And that is the end of Obi-Wan's turn. We would actually then go to Anakin's turn. And then he'd be able to take his 4 actions. We would also go through Ventress's time as well, and more invasion cards. And we continue to do that until we've completed all 4 of the missions. We have then also completed the finale on the back of Ventress's villain card. And at that point, we would win the game. If at any point the threat marker gets down to Darth Sidious, we will have lost. Attempting a mission is an important part of the game because, like I said, you have to complete all of these missions before you can move to the finale. In order to complete a mission, you simply have to exhaust that number of cards 4 successes while you are on that planet. If you have multiple Jedi on a planet, they all can contribute to the success of that mission. If you have something like this where you have to have 5 reds, you basically have to have 5 successes, and the only cards that you can contribute to that are assault cards. If you attempt this mission, though, it's going to do a base of 1 damage. at the beginning of a mission, if you're attempting to complete it, you're going to roll this die. So this adds 1 success to that. So now, in order to complete this mission, I would have to contribute, and that basically means you have to exhaust 4 reds in order to complete this mission. Because I already have 1 success here, I'd have to add 4 reds to it to make it 5. But then the Jedis that are there would have to also take 1, 2 damage. But once you've completed a mission, it will move away. One of the other ones will come out, and then this mission would actually move to Umbara, which is right there. And now we would have to go to Umbara to do that. But with all that having been said, if the villain is on a planet where there is a mission, you cannot attempt the mission until you defeat the villain and get her off of the board, or him off of the board, depending on what villain you're using. Now, there's one last thing that we haven't really talked about yet, and that is these blockade markers. There will be certain things that happen. For example, whenever a 4th droid has to be added to a planet, instead of adding the droid, you will add a blockade to the planet instead, which would then also make the threat level go up by 1. Unlike in Pandemic, you're not going to have explosions of droids on neighboring planets. You're just going to have these blockade markers come out. Now, if you have multiple blockades already out there and you have to add another one and there isn't one here, you'll advance the marker again. So there's only 3 of these markers that are available. Planets can have multiple blockade tokens, but what do blockades do? Well, in order to defeat the troops that are on the planet, you have to first destroy the blockade, and the blockade costs you 2 successes, so it makes it harder to defeat troops that are on the planet, and they will also be raising the threat marker whenever they come out. So blockades are difficult. So it does behoove you as the Jedi to make sure that you're policing those at-risk planets that have 3 droids on them, because if a 4th one gets added, that blockade marker comes out and the threat level goes up. But that's generally how the different mechanisms of the game works. Let's get to my final thoughts. Now, as we get into my final thoughts here, I want to absolutely say that, first of all, I enjoy Pandemic. I enjoy the Pandemic system. There's a lot of games within the Pandemic system that I've enjoyed. I haven't played all of them, but I have enjoyed the Pandemic system games over the course of the years. My favorite one has been Pandemic Iberia because of the historical connection that it has. When this one came out, I was burned in the past by Carcassonne, Star Wars Carcassonne, because that was something that I really wanted to try out, and it just basically turned into a meh experience. So when this one came out, I was like, well, here we go again. This is just slapping Star Wars onto an old system that I probably won't like that much. I was wrong. So my first pro of this game is the fact that while it has very many similarities to Pandemic, it also has a lot of differences, which makes it a different game for me, and that's why I enjoy it. It's not completely dissimilar, but it is just dissimilar enough to where I feel like I'm playing a different game than just Pandemic with a different theme on it, and that's a pro for me. I love the fact that you don't actually have to lose or discard your cards whenever you use them in combat or something like that. You're just tapping them to use those resources. I also like the fact that the only way that you do lose cards is if you choose to discard an ally to use its special ability, or you have to suffer damage. The cards kind of make up your hit points. Really enjoy those two things. But those the mechanisms were familiar enough to where I could almost just pick up the game and start playing it. I did have to read through the rule book to see how those differences fall in, but generally speaking, it was familiar enough and yet dissimilar enough to make it very easy to jump in and play, but it also gave a very different vibe or a different feeling than regular Pandemic did. So that's my first pro. My second pro were the mission cards. I really enjoyed these different mission cards that kind of gave you the same vibe as going to take care of the rest of the viruses in regular Pandemic, but these mission cards are very thematic, and I love how it just kind of pulls you into the theme more than you were expecting it to. I love the fact that this takes place during the Clone Wars. I have watched a lot of the different animated series that are out there that have really kind of enriched the universe a lot for us. And I love the fact that this takes place in that time frame, and it avails itself of a lot of the different things that are going on in that time, and just makes it a very immersive experience for me. And I feel kind of strange saying that about a Pandemic system game, because generally speaking, Pandemic itself isn't quite immersive as a base game. This one really did well, and it's in an IP that I really enjoy. So the fact that they availed themselves and they brought that out in the missions, I really enjoy it. I love the missions. My third pro of the game is going to have to do with the villains. Now, Ventress is the basic entry-level baby steps, using, training wheels villain of the game, and she very much felt like that throughout the course of the time that I played with her as the villain. With that being said, if you take her too lightly, she will mess things up for you. So don't think that you're just going to skate by with Ventress, but she is the easiest one. She's the villain that the rulebook tells you to start off with. Now, the other villains are pretty stinking nasty. Darth Maul, he's a jerk. But all of these have varying degrees of difficulty. They're challenging. You're not just going to be able to skate through them. And I like that. I want a challenge, but I also want to feel like I have a chance to win as well. And I think this game does that very well with a combination of how many different mission cards are you going to put in there, what villain are you going to use. There's a lot of variability there. Well, I won't say a lot, but there's enough to make it interesting and fun. Another pro for me is going to be the fact that they used miniatures and not just cubes on these pieces. The droids that they used have no less than 5 different sculpts, and I love that. Now, they aren't large miniatures, don't get me wrong. They are smaller in stature comparatively to the Jedi and to the villains, but they are good miniatures. They do a great job of thematically, aesthetically showing that there are villains out on the board, and I love that. The miniatures for the Jedi and for the villains are what you would probably consider a normal-sized miniature, but they're all really good. They're in very iconic poses for the characters that they are representing. And I love the fact that they put miniatures in the game instead of just little little cubes. And my last pro is going to be the components and artwork. Now, I know that miniatures are part of the components of the games, and they kind of get their own little seat in the car as far as I'm concerned, because they just add that extra echelon of quality to it. But the rest of the components and the artwork in the game is very good artwork. It's what you can probably expect from a premium tier game as far as the artwork that's employed. Card quality has, they have nice little linen finish on them. They have a good card stock as well. They're not absolutely tremendously good, but they are very good. And I like that. The other tokens that are used, I like that these are clear, kind of iridescent, that actually kind of magnifies the number that they're sitting on top of a little bit so that it's even more clear. The target symbols for the missions, they help it be a little bit more clear about where those missions are. So I like that. I like the fact that they even gave you a little Jedi token for the solo mode part of the game. And that's another thing. Solo mode is actually fun. You basically just play 2 Jedi, but you do have to alternate who goes first every turn. So you can't have one Jedi that's always doing everything and the other guy just kind of sits there and support all the time. So I like the solo mode very much as well. That's another pro, but we'll throw it in here too. So as far as cons are concerned, I really don't have any. I don't have any cons. There isn't anything that I don't like about this game. So adjacent to a con, what are some things that I think it could really benefit from? More playable characters, more villains, and maybe some more droid minis. I'd love to see some super battle droid minis out there. I'd love to see some Droideka minis out there. I'd really love to see a lot of things added to it. This isn't really a con that it's not there. I'm just like, yeah, this would be really cool if it was there. As is, however, my rating of Star Wars The Clone Wars is going to be a very strong 8 out of 10. I really enjoy this game. It has rocketed up to an upper echelon for my collection, and it has earned its own spot. Now, as I said, if it had some of those extra characters in it, some of those extra villains, and some more extra miniatures in there, I think this would easily be a 9 out of 10 for me. But as it is right now, it's definitely a strong 8. It's got a solid, permanent place in my collection. I'm not going to be getting rid of it, and I'm thinking this is probably going to hit the table a lot in the near future. So that's that for my rating, an 8 out of 10 right here on the Dice Tower. Thanks for joining me. We certainly appreciate you. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.